Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about how to get a student visa. More importantly, what are the questions that you're going to be asked during the student visa interview? Because this is honestly the most daunting, worrisome part of the entire process. For some people, it's their first time talking with an American. Sometimes it's their first time actually having a conversation in English. Regardless, this will make or break your study plans because if you do not get the student visa, you're not going to be studying in the United States, plain and simple. And so there's a lot writing on this. So hopefully, the questions that we go over today will help you get your visa. So a couple really quick things as a how to answer and how to present yourself. So you want to when you give your answers, so you'll get the question. When you give your answers, give a short answer, then give an explanation. So like 1 or 2 word answer, 1 to 2 sentence explanation. Don't give a super long explanation that looks weird, and don't just say yes or no because then they think, okay, this person's not a good student. They're going to the U.S. not to study. So you have to make sure that you answer the questions the right way, not just have the right answers, but answer the right way. With this exercise, with what we're going to cover today, it's also super important that you know um, that you're rehearsed, you're practiced. What you don't want to be though is you don't want to memorize all the answers and just have the answers memorized because that looks fake as well, and that's also going to lead to a rejection. So you make sure that you are comfortable with your answers, you've rehearsed them, but you're not just giving them back as the way that you memorize them. Okay? So, that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into. Oh, and always, always, always tell the truth. I've seen a lot of students get nervous and say things that weren't true, and it will lead to a denial. Plus, the U.S. Embassy already has all your paperwork, all your documents in front of them, and so they're going to be able to know if you're telling the truth or not. Plus, they've already been through this experience enough times where they'll be able to know if you're telling the truth or not. Um, it's just like any job, any profession. The more you interview people, the more you talk with people, the more you're going to know if they're telling the truth or lying. Okay, so one of the first questions, plain and simple: how do you feel about the United States? So, how do you feel about the United States? So, again, short answer, quick explanation. So if you feel good about the United States, as you should, say, "Oh, I think the United States is awesome." And then give an explanation as to why. So say, I have a lot of friends that studied there and they all had a great time and they all improved their lives. Great, something like that. So quick answer, quick explanation. And so you will want to be able to do something like that. What they're looking for, though, is um, just in case if you someone doesn't have the best feelings about the United States, and so so already they probably in especially in certain countries they'll do a background check on you. They'll look at your social media. They'll look at all the documents that you provided. They'll look to see how they'll get a general feel about how you feel about the United States. And so they want to make sure that yes, you feel good about the United States, that you are indeed a fan of the United States, and you're going there with love in your heart. Because what they don't want, I covered this in a previous video. What they don't want is they don't want people who will do damage to the United States. And so you'll be rejected for one of, if someone is rejected, they're rejected for one of two reasons. Either they'll do damage, so like let's say they're terrorists, they're just going to do not good stuff in the United States. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other is if they're a migration risk, meaning they're just trying to move to the United States. So with this question, how do you feel about the United States? They want to make sure you're not on either side of the spectrum. So if this is loving the United States, they want to make sure that you're here, maybe not here, Because if you're here all the way on the edge saying, oh, I absolutely love the United States, I'll do anything I can to get to the United States, what that tells them is, let's say you go to college, go to university, and you fail your classes, you are not going to leave the United States. Like that is a problem. And so instead of here, they want to see that you're here, that you love the United States, but you're going to obey all the rules, all the laws, even if that means being sent home. So that's what they're looking for. So how do you feel about the United States? Oh, I'm a big fan of the United States. I have friends that studied there. They all had a great experience, and I want that experience for myself. Great. Okay, the next question is huge. How will you finance your studies? So already they have your paperwork in front of them. So they have your bank statements, they have your financial support form for your college or university, because most schools do require that. So they have all your documents in front of them. So how will you finance your studies? What they're looking for here is the story behind those documents, just in case if those documents are fake. So how will you finance your studies? So most of the time it's your parents. The parents are the ones that will finance the studies. So how will you finance your studies in the United States? If it's your parents, say, oh, it's my parents. But then say, like, again, give a short answers behind it or quick description. So my parents, they've been saving up their entire life for me to study in the United States, so I take this opportunity very seriously. Or, oh, my parents, my dad, he's a banker, and my mom stays at home, so she taught me well, and he sacrificed so I could study abroad. So talk about what they do for work. Okay, now here's where there's a quick culture experience. So in certain countries, like for example in Kazakhstan, anyone that works is called a businessman. And so they could say, "Oh, he's a businessman." Like, what does your father do for work? Oh, he's a businessman. That's not going to work. Like, you got to be more specific than that. And again, don't lie. Always tell the truth, but also make sure that your dad sounds cool, like, or that the position actually sounds cool. um, I know of a young man who was in Africa who unfortunately got denied because when asking what his parents do for work, the, he said that they work in apparel. Okay, if someone works in apparel like clothing, what that means is they could work at a store and they could be selling T-shirts. Like, yeah, that's a honorable profession, absolutely, but it might not earn enough for someone to study overseas. So if your parents, let's say they own a store where they sell shirts, don't just say, oh, they sell shirts. Like, all of a sudden that creates a lot of doubt in the mind of the US embassy. So what you want to say is, my parents own a store where they sell shirts or they sell clothes. Great, they own a clothing store. Cool. Something like that. So how will you finance your studies? If, and again, most of the time it's your parents or the parents. Sometimes it's the family members at large. So you can say, "Oh, my family pulled together all their money. That's why I uh, did a lot of research to find this best opportunity in the United States," or "That's why I picked this school, is because it's affordability and it's scholarships." So how will you finance your studies? This is a huge question. Um, Again, if they think that you're lying, or if they think you don't have enough money sincerely to study in the United States for a year, you're going to get denied, because in your paperwork you already need to show that you indeed do have enough money to study for 1 full year. So make sure that that is in there. Okay, do you have family members in the United States? So this is a really common question, and a lot of times, uh, we all have family members that live in the United States. And so, again, always tell the truth. So if you do have family members, you have to say yes. If the answer is no, that's fine. That's a quick no, I don't have any family members that live in the United States. Or no, they're all here. Or no, they're in Europe. Like, quick answer, quick explanation. So, no, give the reason why. Um, but if it's a yes, say yes, but then give an explanation behind that. So, yes, I have an uncle who lives in Detroit. Um, but that's why but I plan on focusing on my studies. And so give the yes, but then set the scene. Explain what that really means. Because if let's say you have a family member that lives in Houston, Texas, and you're going to go live in Houston, Texas, what they're going to think is that you're going to go live with your family member, and heaven forbid you not pass your classes. But what they're going to think is if push comes to shove and you fail your classes, instead of leaving the United States, you're just going to go live with your relative and try to hide from the law. Like, that's not going to fly. Like, that will lead to a rejection really fast. So if your uncle lives here or your family member lives here, try to study over here. The United States is massive. Sometimes people forget just how big the United States is. But to drive coast to coast, yeah, that's a multiple day trip right there. And it's all amazing. Every state in the United States is awesome, but it's a long trip. Heck, even up and down, it's shorter. But to drive from San Diego, California to, say, Ashland, Oregon, which is on the border with California, even that, to do it in a day is tough. So the United States is really, really big. So try to not pick a university or a college that's really close to your relative, because then that just raises a lot of questions. But if it happens, it happens. So, for example, I've seen people who have relatives that live up in Seattle. And so then they're going to school up in Seattle. So you'd be like, oh, yeah, I have a relative that lives in the area. They work all the time because they work for a tech company. They work like 80 hours a week. So I'll probably see them for holidays, but besides that, I'm here to focus on my studies. So that is honestly a good answer, regardless of where they are. Say, I have a relative, they live in this location, like Detroit, Chicago, wherever. I I plan on seeing them for holidays every now and then, but I do plan on focusing on my studies. So I'll see them every now and then, but not often. So you have relatives in the area. Yes, you do. Okay, this is a big one as well. How did you learn about the school? Um, what they want to know, they're kind of seeing if you indeed know about the school, because there are some situations where a student is pressured either by a family member or by an agent to pick a specific school, whether they like it or not. They're going to that school. Or sometimes a student will pick a school because it's easy to get admitted into it, regardless of whether or not it's a good opportunity or not. And sometimes the school is the bad guy. Sometimes there'll be a school that is fake. Doesn't happen often by any means, but on the rare occasion, there will be a fake school, or a school where it's new and it's honestly in an office building. I've heard of some schools where they have like 20 students meeting in a business park, which is not cool because that's not a good experience either. And it's not safe. And so, what they want to know is, how did you learn about that school? So, again, answer explanation. So, if it's your friend, say, oh, I learned about it from my friend. They graduated from there. They said it was fantastic. Awesome. Or you could, or if it's a family member, oh, my uncle went there 20 years ago. He loved it. Has a great job. I want to follow in his footsteps. Great. If it is indeed an agent, that's fine. Agents are fine, or most of the time are fine. But what they want to make sure is that you're not being pushed in that direction. So, how did you learn about the school? Oh, I learned about it from my agent. But then I did a lot of research and I actually fell in love with the school myself. Great. So show that, yes, the agent is the one that showed it to you, but then you had other reasons why you fell in love with it. So again, I learned about it from my agent. I did a lot of research and I fell in love with it myself. Or I learned about it from my agent. I have I know some really good people. So I have some friends that went there and they loved it. So always make sure that you're showing that you did your own research and that you want to go there yourself. Um, but you also have to be prepared because sometimes there's a follow up question. Um, so, for example, they want to see if you actually really did do your research, and so they might just say something really short. So, if let's say you're going to UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, fantastic school, great school. They might say it's kind of hot there, huh? And you'd be like, yeah. As long as you say, yeah, I deal well with the heat, yeah, then you're fine. Like, just have it be a conversation, but give a response that shows that you know what you're talking about. Or if you go up to Seattle, say, okay, if they might say, are you ready for all the rain? Say, yeah, I love the rain. Or yes, I do a lot of indoor stuff. Because in the Northwest, it rains a lot. Summers are fantastic. The rest of the year, it rains. And so they want to make sure that, yes, you did your research. Um, or if you're going to a school that's known for something, hopefully you know what that something is. So let's say Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a really cool school. It's close to the border of Idaho and Washington. Gonzaga, it's a private college, private university, private school. What they're known for is their basketball. Like, it's a small school, but they kick butt at basketball and they're fun to watch. So like most of the years, like they're number one or number two in basketball. So if you're going to Gonzaga, they might ask something like, "Oh, you like basketball?" Yeah, I'm a fan. Um, I'm not tall enough to be on the team, but it'll be fun. Something like that. So you want to make sure that it's enjoyable. So again, show that you did your research. Show that you know why you're picking that school. So honestly, the best way to prepare for that is do your research. Research that school, research the community, research the town, figure out, get your own personal reasons as to why you're going there. So that way, when they ask, how did you learn about the school? The sincere answer is my family member, my agent, my friend, whoever. But then you're able to give your own explanation as to why you're picking that school. Okay, here is a big one. What are your plans after graduation? So you come to the United States, kick butt in your studies, graduate. What is your plan? Getting a prop. So, so down here, I have OPT, optional practical training. So what you want to say, what I should say, what a good common answer is, oh, I plan on going to the US. I want to graduate. I want to do OPT, but then return home and work here. I so what you want to show is that you have ties, you have a plan to come back home. So let's say you're from Korea. Oh, I want to go to the United States, graduate, do OPT, but then work for a multinational company here in Korea. Or let's say you have a family member who owns a business. You can say, oh, I want to go to the United States, graduate, but then I want to return home and work in my family business. So OPT is something very, very important to know. It stands for optional practical training. So this is my passport. Um, this is actually about halfway full. I have another one that is completely full. Even on the back, I have some cool stamps. So OPT, optional practical training. What this is you can work in the United States with just your student visa and your passport. Because when you do OPT, your passport is what allows you to stay, or your visa is what allows you to stay. Your school becomes your sponsor. So with OPT, When you graduate, you get to qualify for 1 year of working in the United States. If you major in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, math, instead of 1 year, it's extended and you have 3 years of work in the United States. You have to have a job, so you have to find an employer that will hire you through OPT. And so most of the time, these are not small companies, these are bigger companies. So it's like Microsoft, Dell, Adobe, Intel, uh, banks. So they're larger companies, they're not startups. Because there's a lot of paperwork involved. So OPT is what allows you to work in the United States using your student visa. So, what are your plans after graduation? I want to get a job, do OPT, return home. What they're looking for here is that your plan is the return home. If your plan is to like stay in the United States, again, that's a migration risk and you will get denied. So I have seen good students just say that out loud and be like, "Oh yeah, no, I want to work in New York and I want to build a new life out there." Like, nope, that's not what you say. Because again, that is a migration risk. So what you want to say is something like, "Oh, I plan on going, studying, graduating, doing OPT, but then ultimately I want to return home." Plans change. We all know plans change, but we don't want your plan to be to go live in the United States, like to start a new life and live out the rest of your days in the United States. We don't want to hear that because, again, that's a migration risk. So you want to make it plain and simple that you do plan on going to the United States, graduating, maybe doing OPT, but then returning home. That is what we're looking for. Okay, nice and simple. Those are your plans. So those are some of the common questions. Here's just for fun. I threw in uncommon, but well, I hear this probably like about 5% of the time from students. What will you do if you get denied? So if I deny you for your visa today, what will you do? What they're doing here is they're testing you. Oh, heck, all these questions are testing you. But on this one, what they're testing you for is, what will you do? Do you have a plan? So what you could say is, "Oh, I plan." Well, the first thing you want to do is you want to let them know that you'll be heartbroken. Like, "Oh man, that's gonna be really bad, but I really do want to study in the United States, so I'm gonna apply at least one more time." Um, but you also want to show that you want to do your research. So, um, say something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm going to do research to figure out like why I got denied because I sincerely want to study in the United States." So I would figure out the reasons why, address that, and then come back and get my visa hopefully during my second interview, because that does happen. Sometimes there's just like something that went wrong during the first interview, and they they need it addressed in the second interview. And they are supposed to give you a piece of paper, a document that says why you got denied. Sometimes it'll just be a written out code, but then you can look up the code and figure out what happened. So that's what you want to do. So you want to show that, yes, you will be heartbroken. You're going to do research and you're going to try it again. Because what they don't want to see, again, it's a spectrum. They don't want to see on one side, I'll go to the UK. Because then they'll be like, "You know what, screw you, off you go to the UK." They don't want to see that. They also don't want to see the other end of the spectrum of, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to go home and kill myself." Like, they don't want to see that either. Or they don't want to see, like, "I'll try again and again and again until I get this visa." Like, that's not what they want to see. They want to see a healthy medium where you say something along the lines of, "Oh, I'll be heartbroken, but the US is still my number one choice. Like, I love the United States." So what that is what they want to see. So one thing to keep in mind as you're answering all these questions, remember, these people, their job is the screen. Their job is to keep the United States safe and to make sure that people aren't just trying to migrate to the United States. Um, and so you have to think about their stance. Another job that they have is to put up with students every single day. So as you're in the waiting room, as you're waiting for your turn, make sure that you're positive, make sure that you're optimistic, make sure that you have a good you're in a good place when it comes to your mental mindset. Because if you go in there pessimistic, like, oh, they're not going to approve me, yeah, you're going to get denied. Or if you go in there like having a bad day and like your body language shows it, yeah, you're going to get denied. So you want to be optimistic, you want to be happy, you want to go in there and you want to do great. So that's really what they're looking for. So again, the reasons why someone will get denied is if they're a security risk, like a safety risk, or they're a migration risk. Those are the two reasons. So all these questions are here to show to figure that out. Okay, so let's go to some questions in the chat because I see that we actually do have quite a few questions in the chat. Um, okay, what if I do need a scholarship to study in the United States? Okay, again, let's go back to the question: how will you finance your studies? So even if someone has a lot of scholarship, there's still some expense that's expected to be paid for by the student. So if someone has a scholarship, again, give your answer. So if it's your parents, if it's your family, say, okay, like how do you plan on financing your studies? My parents saved a lot of money. I got a scholarship. I worked hard. I got a partial scholarship, and so that's what's going to make the difference right there. And so talk about how your parents sacrificed, that they saved up enough money for you to be able to study in the United States with a partial scholarship. Um, at the graduate level, I know the last time we talked about assistantships, and that's where you do research or teach a class in exchange for tuition. So if you did get a full scholarship for an assistantship, then talk about that. Say, oh, I saved up money on my own, but I got an assistantship. And the U.S. Embassy, they'll know what an assistantship is. They're very familiar with higher education. So you can talk about that. So hopefully that answers your question. So if you do have a scholarship, just add that into the conversation here. Okay. Okay, I see another question asking about social media. So yes, um, not every time, but at a lot of U.S. embassies, they will look at your social media. What they're looking for is like horrible stuff. They're looking for evidence that you hate the United States. And so, like, if there's a picture of like you or a family member burning an American flag, yeah, they're going to take note, and that's going to get you denied. Um, because again, that would show that you're a security risk. They're looking to see if you're on any groups that are known as terrorist groups. Like they're looking for that type of stuff. Excuse me. And so if it's pictures of like you at your birthday parties, you at your friends, you just doing fun stuff, cool. That's like give a good image and make sure your image is real because again, they're going to find out. So make sure that your socials are representative of your real life and your real life is indeed good. Okay. Got one last one last question in here. What if you are financing your studies yourself? Um, great, good for you because that's quite a bit of money for an individual at a young age. So if you do plan on financing your studies yourself, put that talk about that. Say, oh, I saved up money. I've been, but you have to explain how because that's very very uncommon. So you could say something like, oh, I've been doing marketing for 5 years and I saved up all the money myself. or I've been an engineer for 10 years and I've been saving all the money myself. So talk about how you save the money yourself and give that as part of your explanation. Okay. So again, just to recap, studying in the United States, this is the biggest step, like bigger than admissions, because if you get denied from one university, guess what? You could apply to another university. But this, you get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. And so if you get denied, you have to come again. You can try it again, but hopefully you don't have to, and hopefully you can get it on your first try. So again, always tell the truth. Give a short answer, short explanation. Some of the questions: how do you feel about the United States? Hopefully you feel good. How do you plan on financing your studies? Again, give a short answer, short explanation. My parents will be financing my studies. They've been saving a lot um, over the past 20 years, ever since I was born. Awesome. Do you have any family members that live in the United States? If it's a yes, yes, I do. I have an uncle who lives in Chicago, but I'm going to be studying in Sacramento, and I'm going to be focusing on my studies. So I might see him for the holidays, but besides that, I'm going to be focusing on my studies. How did you learn about the school? I learned about it from my agent, but I did a lot of research on my own, and I absolutely fell in love with the opportunity with the campus. What are your plans after graduation? I plan on staying in the United States for my studies and OPT, but then I want to come back home to my home country to work. Um, what will I tell you if I deny you right now? I'll be heartbroken. I do research as to why I got denied, but I will try it again. Um, so hopefully this has been helpful. They want to see that you have enough ties back home in your home country, enough reason to come back home, so that even if you fall in love with the United States, because the United States is freaking amazing. Like, you're going to come to the United States, have a great opportunity, great experience, fall in love with it. They want to make sure that you have enough at home, so that you will indeed return home to your country. Because again, the United States is awesome. Um, so hopefully this has been helpful. Good luck with your student visa interview, and email us if you have any questions. Work with my team, and we could help you even get prepared even more. All right. Good luck. Take care.